There it is. There you are. Now we're live. Alrighty. Hello, hello, everybody. Super
Hey
excited to be
everyone,
here.
first time using this tool, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. This Tensort. Tensort. I don't know exactly how to pronounce your name,
He
but
says
yes.
there's 20 other people in the room. Can you see that? Oh, I see it. There's 32 eyeballs.
Oh, there you go. Yes, I can see now. Yeah.
Yeah.
32 people.
That's,
Okay. Welcome, welcome. So,
okay.
anyone here familiar with the 6 steps, or is this totally new? Like any of you from Octalysis? I'm just interested. Hello,
Octalysis Prime specifically,
Octalysis
because
Prime.
if
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
just any other place in Octalysis, you might not. You probably won't see it.
Then awesome. Joe Castile, welcome, welcome. Vincent, welcome. Aditya, welcome. Nice to see you. Okay, Buran, you say you are familiar with it. Awesome. I have some slides you guys here prepared just to illustrate everybody how this works, kind of like maybe you can help us with an introduction, but I have the 6 steps so we can walk through each one by one. What do you say?
Yeah, I think let's go through an overview first. By the way, for like I probably share this on social media too, on Twitter, all that stuff. But I'll do it later when you're presenting or showing something. So I just want to say, hey everyone, as you can see, we're kind of figuring things out as we go, and we're playing with the tools. We're seeing how things are. Now, this is mimicking what we have done for quite a few years now in Octalysis Prime, which we call it a live coaching session where Octalysis Prime members, they show up every week and they ask me some questions. Most of them, because my Octalysis work has been about you applying a framework to solve company problems or design for other people generally. So some parents would ask, how do I use it with my kids? Doctors would ask how to do it with my patients, or schools with students. Designers, product managers with their customers or users. And so most of the questions there has been focused on how to improve those things, and that's all based on my first book, Actionable Gamification: Beyond Points, Badges, and Leaderboard. And obviously, Octalysis has changed my life, right? And I think you already put that in some of the marketing smarts. So it's like I've made millions of dollars because of the Octalysis framework. So it's very, very impactful. But I actually think what has been more impactful in my life was this whole 10,000 hours of play, gamifying my life, principle and philosophy. So if you don't know, I created the Octalysis framework in 2012, still very, very early, 12 years ago now. But I actually started gamifying my life and started seeing everything in this gamification lens since 2003. And that was more life-changing because that got me from a person who just didn't know what I want to do in life, and therefore I got sucked into games because that created the most amount of mental stimulation and emotional stimulation, to, okay, I'm playing this game with my life and I need to be awesome at this game, and I need to figure and I realized, hey, everything I learned or everything I need to be successful in the real world is already taught in games. And that was mind-blowing. Like, hey, then everyone who played games should have this knowledge and be successful. But obviously that's not the case. So that's why my second book focused on 10,000 hours of play, which is the stuff that made a bigger impact in my life. And I think if more and more people can learn the 6-step methodology and turning their life to game, becoming amazing, and you'll see in the game where we in our study, we show that every successful person we studied in history has those 6 steps in 10,000 hours of play. And so our goal, some of them accidentally had these 6 steps. Some of them had 4 or 5 steps and they weren't successful. Like Leonardo da Vinci, he was considered a loser until he was in his 40s, until they got the final step they were missing. And then suddenly their life took off and they achieved what we call the legendary success or legendary achievements. We like to use that terminology. And so I've realized that, hey, I'd like to share this. And this is something that potentially, if it goes well, we can create 1,000 more Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Da Vinci's, Mary Curie's in this world, right? And, it could be more than 1,000, but of course, 1,000 is a good milestone to get to because they're all world changing. So I think that's the context. And so I'm pushing out my second book, 10,000 Hours of Play, so the book is most likely going to be launched in February. In January, we'll launch a Kickstarter. which has lots of little cool perks and whatnot. And February we'll launch the book, and the vision is eventually set up a 10K HP Academy. 10K HP is 10,000 hours of play. I like these gameful acronyms like OP, 10K HP. 10K HP Academy, where we start doing one-on-one training for people, and we certify coaches. And that vision there is we want to have a 10K HP coach, in every single city in the world, at least one. And so, that's why we're doing this. And Mark is a very experienced. He's helped me tremendously. So he's a basically co-author of the book. He's putting a lot of the campaigns. He's built a new YouTube channel for us, and he says, "Hey, we should do this on YouTube Live." So here we are.
Yay! I'm very excited about this one. Yes. So, how about we go through like a little introduction for those of you who are not familiar? Like I saw some, for example, Antonio from Chile. You said that you read Octalysis, like the actionable gamification, but you're curious about the 6 steps for the 10,000 hours, right? So some of you are not very familiar. So how about I give a quick introduction of how this works? And if you have anything you want to comment on, Yuka, you can jump right in, right?
Sounds great.
So let me share my screen. Let me see if I can share the screen like, wait a second. I present, and then share screen. And don't share this tip again. Yep. Share screen. And here it is. Okay, wait a second. I need to share this one. Okay, and now, I need to click add to the stage. Here we are. Alrighty. So by now you should be able to see the 6 steps, right? So this is divided in 2 phases: know yourself and grow yourself. The first part is when we start with the very first step, which is choosing your mission. Your mission is when you define your purpose in life. You define something like a grand mission that is going to take maybe a couple of decades or maybe a decade to overcome, like to win, right? A lot of people don't have a mission in life, and that's totally fine. This 10K HP journey is for those of you who are interested in something big or something that, like, you see something in your life like, I want a little bit more of something. I don't know what it is. And you just have this drive to get something much better than you can do much better, right? So a mission, for example, the mission from Mr. Elon Musk was he wanted to advance humanity, right? Even if his game was to become a millionaire, he would have stopped like years and years ago when he sold PayPal. But actually, after selling,
or even Zip2, because that he already made.
Oh yeah, in
10
there
to 20 million dollars.
$1 million.
10 to 20 million. About his share, I think, was about 10 to 12 million.
And so, like, if his game was I want to just enjoy life, which is valid, that would have been like he's done. Like, but because he wanted to advance humanity, he continued and then did the PayPal one and then sold it. He became a centimillionaire, and he used all that money to embed it on SpaceX, right? Like SpaceX and then Tesla. So that is when you choose your mission. Then the next step is knowing your attributes. Knowing your attributes is knowing basically your game stats. When you play a video game, you can set, for example, anyone familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you have strength, you have dexterity, you have all of that. Well, attributes is basically that, but particular to you. Like maybe you have musical intelligence, maybe you are really good at talking, maybe you are really good at giving presentations, or maybe you are really impressively logical, but you don't have social skills, right? So attributes is knowing your strengths and also your weaknesses, right? Once you know both, you can strategize and face the game of life with better odds of winning. And then step 3 is defining your role. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. When one of these three is out of alignment, we call it 10K HP alignment, which is 10,000 hours of play alignment. This is when you start struggling and life becomes not only harder, but also more stressful. You will notice that if at some point in your life you have all of these steps aligned, you have more fun and there's less stress. Or if you have stress, it's meaningful stress. Like at least you're excited. Like, oh my God, it's so, like right now, Aditya and me, some like our team, we're struggling with some graphics and then, but it was exciting at the same time to get all of this ready for you guys. So the role is when you decide to, like, in RPG games, there's anyone of you familiar with it, can be, you can play as the tank, right? Or you can play as the ranger from far away doing damage, or you can do the DPS, right? Damage per second, the guys who go and attack, or the healer. So those are roles in an RPG. But in life, you could be, for example, you could be a YouTuber, you could be an engineer. For those are careers. There's one really interesting example that is these two very big YouTubers. Both of them are YouTubers. One of them is Mr. Beast, and another one is, for example, Mark Rober. Now, Mr. Beast, he's a showman challenges, like a challenge showman guy. He does challenges, he does this and that. Like that. He's still a YouTuber, but his role is more of a challenge showman. And Mark Rover is more like the crazy scientist who teaches science through very mischievous experiments and mischievous inventions, right? He tries to make science fun. So he's like, the role is the cool teacher, right? So even though they are both YouTubers, they are playing different roles and they attract different audiences, right? And then once you have those three, you move to the next part, which is grow yourself. The first part is basically, if any of you have ever played Dungeons and Dragons or any RPG, is when you're setting your stats, you're setting all of this. And then grow yourself is when you actually go to battle and you start doing missions, fighting with bad guys, etc., and leveling up. So step 4 is when you enhance your skills, is when you start leveling up, you start developing something. Here's a confusion that happened to me a lot when I was starting learning this with you guys. I would confuse skills and attributes so much, and the difference is that they could be mistaken, but there's a big difference. Skills is something that you can learn fairly quickly, and attributes is something that either you are born with, or if you want to develop it, it will take you like at least a decade just to barely have that attribute at mediocre level, right?
Well, you can develop attributes in a slower, like, hey, every year you might notice some difference. So example would be like perseverance, right? You don't sign up to an online course and then you're like, yay, now I'm a very perseverant person, right? You have to go either some people are born with more perseverance, they're more stubborn, they don't want to give up, or through life experiences, they realize they have to keep pushing harder and harder, and they build that. So that's an attribute. Now attribute needs to empower your skills, because some skills are not powered by attributes. Like if you don't have the patience attribute, but you are trying to learn some skills that require patience, then you usually will fail miserably. Or if you, like for me, I don't have physical awareness attributes, like looking around me, like I don't see a lot of little objects if it's not important for my mission. So I shouldn't be developing detective skills like Sherlock Holmes, because it's just not something that I'm strong on.
Yeah, actually, me, if I was a detective, but my head is always in the clouds, the murderer would always get away, like, huh? Thinking about the other things. That would be the wrong role for me, for my attributes. And even if I try to develop detective skills, I would be very, very slow at it. So when we talk about an alignment, means that your attributes are empowered by the game you're actually playing. Like the game turns you on, like, oh my God, I love this. And you have the right attributes to do something good. And then the role is empowered by those attributes, right?
Yeah,
And then
in a game, oftentimes we choose our roles first. Do you want to be a tank or a healer or whatnot? And this is your attribute, right? But now in real life, unfortunately, we don't have that. We're born with attributes, but then we select our role that matches our attributes. So you could still choose roles, and we'll go through. I have a variety of like mini frameworks in 10K HP. You know, I'll show some of them. You could still choose a role that doesn't align with your attributes, but you can only play in less competitive places. You can't become like if you were born with mage, like wizard attributes, but you want to pick up an axe and charge in the battlefield. If you train a lot, yeah, you can in like a less competitive place, you can still have fun and do that. But when you get to a more competitive place, usually, obviously, you'll be destroyed by the other warriors who are powered by their strength and whatnot, and you'll lose to other wizards who to double down on spells that can attack you. And one thing that I do clarify a lot in the book is the game doesn't have to be connected to your attributes and roles. That's why it's step one. It's actually what you're passionate about. And once you choose your game, then you figure the other things. For instance, because I believe if you're passionate about music, even if you only had very little attributes, like you're only talented to be, let's say the only thing you can do is a janitor, right? You would be happier if you were a janitor at a music company than a truck company, I believe. But if it was the other way around, if you're passionate about trucks, you would be more passionate about a truck company than a music company, right? And so the first step is choose the mission. What is the game you're going to play? And then figure out, okay, what skills are you, or what attributes are you born with? And then decide, okay, what is the perfect role for me? Another example I give a lot in the book is, let's say your game is about solving climate change issues, right? Depending on where you stand on that. And obviously the straightforward thing is, hey, if you have quantitative skills, you can become an engineer one day and maybe create some kind of new invention that's, that creates clean energy and whatnot. But if you don't have those skills, like many people, but let's say you have communication persuasive skills, you can still become, for instance, a diplomat to negotiate international treaties that are good for the environment. And you could be a lobbyist. There's a lot of things you could do. So you first choose the game, then you understand your attributes, and then you select your role. And then it's what Mark talked about. At that point, you're like, what are the skills I need to learn to become the strongest player on my server with that role? And that's step 4.
See, and like this is, by the way, all of this is brilliant because once we finish with all the 6 steps, I want to share with you guys something that changed, like how this impacted my life. Because when you try something really, really hard and then you fail, this 6 steps is a perfect way to find exactly the problem that the missing step that I had. And like when I realized, like, oh my God, I didn't have step, I think it was step 2 and step 5. I didn't have those steps aligned. Everything else, I was really good at it. But we will talk about that later. So anyhow, the skills is something you can go to a workshop, you can go to YouTube and get tutorials, you can get an online course on Udemy, and then you develop those skills. But if your skills, again, is not empowered by your attributes, someone else who has really high attributes, empowering their skills, they're gonna learn super fast. Okay, so step 5 is when you build your alliance. Allies are not just the colleagues or teammates. No, it's also your mentors. Like I can tell you, one of my best allies that is life changing for me is Yukai. That was life changing for me. Like, whoa, it's mind blowing. Like getting the right allies for your mission, right? In my case, I'm gonna just quickly tell you a little bit of my mission in life. Is I think it was like 10 years ago. I said like I want to make a revolution in education. In other words, I want to make education fun because I see my nephews and my nieces, and then vacation is over, and then they go, "Oh, I want to go back to school." And then I think school shouldn't suck. Like, it should be fun. Actually, I wish they would get sad when vacation is coming. I'm not gonna be allowed to come back to school for a couple of days. Like, entertain, like, education can be so much fun. And Yukai was the perfect ally for me because he's doing gamification, he's taking video game elements and putting them into whatever you're using, into a business, or in my case, into education, right? So building your alliance is your coaches, mentors, peers, your network, colleagues. Also, it can be some people that you're training, all of them. Like, just so you know, allies are people who can be gatekeepers. They maybe not let, like, it can be someone who doesn't let you in unless you become an ally of them, right? And then finally, the quests. Quests are basically when you set yourself some goals. It's different than a mission. Like, mission could be thought of as a goal, but it should be so big that it is no longer a goal. It becomes a mission, like a mission in life. But quests are things for, one of my favorites is Elon Musk. Like, a lot of people, we know he's like controversial, etc. Love it or hate him, he does have something that is very respectful, which is he was a freaking genius when he started doing those companies. That's why he grew so fast. You know why? Because he did a quest when he was very young, and he was he was, I believe, 12, when he said, "I'm gonna read all the books in the library." What the? Any of you have you ever, when you were 12, what were you? I can tell you, I was playing video games. I was not reading books. That was not my quest. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna read all the books in the library," because he definitely wanted to become insanely knowledgeable, right? So that those are the 6 steps. Now, when you find amazing success in your life, and that is what we found when we were looking, for example, Leonardo da Vinci, he was uh, pursuing the right mission, right? He was the Renaissance man, and he wanted to, like, explore creativity, doing invention, exploring all his human curiosity. And then he was insanely talented. He was playing multiple roles as an engineer, as a painter, as a musician, as a theater, something like a script writer. It's not exactly, I don't remember the name, but it's those who write for the theater. And then he had the perfect skills, and he was pursuing the right quests. But guess what? Like, all of this, but he didn't have the right allies. He was basically a loser from the age of 20 to 45. It was until 45 that he was he got a really powerful ally, the Duke of Milan, and he allowed him to start doing more work and start exploring more his creativity. And then he got known and renowned by more and more people, and boom, that set the stage for huge success for him. But you
Yeah,
can
it's
see,
interesting because his the reason why it's from 20 to his 40s is before he was 20, he was still successful because he had good allies. He was following his mentor
yeah,
because he's working there at his workshop.
Andrea
So
del
he had just
Verrocchio.
yeah, so he just applied his skills and attributes and all that stuff. And then afterwards, he went on his own and he couldn't finish. He didn't have the attributes and personality to finish the projects.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a time period where I think there was like 5 years as a freelancer. He only got 3 projects, and he didn't finish any of them. And in fact, Michelangelo, who had early success in his life, because Michelangelo actually had these success line early, constantly made fun of Da Vinci and looked down upon him. And only when later on Da Vinci figured out how to build allies did they do. So in the book, every step we have one or two what we call OP heroes that demonstrate that steps well. we mentioned a few. We have choose your game is actually Gandhi. We could go into that later, but Gandhi. Then we have Walt Disney for know your attributes. Select your role is Oprah Winfrey. Enhance your skills, Elon Musk. Build your alliance. We actually have 2 chapters on it. So one is Da Vinci, precisely because the point we said he was not good at it, even though he was good at everything else. And then someone that a lot of people don't know
The
named
total
Sun Yat-sen.
opposite.
Yeah, Sun Yat-sen. And he was really good at it, but he had insurmountable difficulty in what he's doing. And then for Achieve Your Quest, it's Mary Curie, who is the first human being to win 2 Nobel Prize in separate categories, and the only one in history to have in science categories, right? There's only 6 in total. And she was, even though she's like top academic achievements, she discovered 2 elements. She was actually not allowed to go to school, like go to high school, where she grew up. And so she had to proactively find the right quest to get to where she wanted to be, to finish her game. So yeah, so a lot of that is pretty cool. So I see Antonio asking for a manuscript. Mark, we have the older version before the editor did it, because the editor just gave it back to us a couple days ago. We have a link to an older manuscript. Mark, do you think that's the one we should be sharing, or I can share that one?
Right now, usually I've always shared like like give us something and like some feedback. But right now, I think we're very close to launching it. I would say like we have other things prepared for you guys. Like I think, for example, there's we're gonna open doors for the first time for a mini course that we recorded, where it's basically a summary of the 6 steps, but in a visual way. And also, we talk about 8 cheat codes in life that those are not covered in the book. Those are exclusive of that mini video course, right? Closed captioning. What do you mean? I don't know.
Like subtitles.
Subtitles in
For the
we could add in the mini course, yes, but in the live stream, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible.
we'll put this section on, because it's on YouTube Live, right? So it'll be a YouTube
Yeah.
video. I'm pretty sure YouTube will add closed captioning to it. Yeah, you can decide. Like, I'm like Mark. I'm happy to share the old manuscript, but it's an older version. Like, there's been like 500 edits after that, and so I don't know if it's the
maybe you can, Antonio Iturra, you can maybe reach out directly to Yukai or me, and we can give you the link.
Yeah.
About that. Excited to read the book, Yukai. When is it launching? Or we're aiming for somewhere on February. Yes, Joe Castillo.
Yeah. So Kickstarter on January, and then February would be the actual launch.
Yes.
Yeah, and what's really cool is so far the people who have seen the manuscript, again, like we have the blurbs, right? I was posting that, but I realized apparently the comment section broke it down into like a lot of little comments, but
I can show it here. Like,
sure. Yeah. What's cool, I have a cool little story, which is Charles Huang, who is the creator of Guitar Hero. I think it's the second game in the world that made over $1 billion a year. He became a professor at UC Berkeley, and I interviewed. I had a long interview with him on Octalysis Primes, one of our content, but then it's been many years since I talked to him, and I reached out to him and said, hey, would you like to check out my book? Maybe leave a blurb. And he's like, oh, I'm busy, don't have a lot of time. Maybe I'll check it out, blah, blah, blah. So he was really like non-committal about it. And then 2 weeks later, he came back and he's like, Yukai, I checked out the manuscript and I'm willing to give you a blurb in one condition. I'm like, oh, okay. What would that be? Like, he wants me to do him a favor, or he wants me to pay him a fee to do it? What is he going to ask? And he's like, when you publish a book, I want 3 signed copies because I want to give it to my friends. It's fantastic. I'm like, oh, yes, that's so cool. Right? That's the best compliment people can give you, right? Because they can say, yeah, that's so good. That's so amazing. Good job. Very proud of it. But when they say, hey, I want your product, that's when they actually like it. Because everything else is just try to make you feel better. Yeah. So, and so far, a few other friends, people who have checked out the book, they already told me, like, I was just saying, hey, can you give me feedback? They said they make life changes that they're on a different track. For example, one guy is he's trained as a psychologist, but then he became a behavioral scientist for an insurance company, and then he volunteered at he liked to volunteer at fire stations, be a firefighter. But then he said, due to reason, and there was one big accident where 3 people died from it, and other reasons where he started doing less and less of that. Then he went through the book and he's like, hey, wait a second. I still want to play that game. I still want to contribute to that. But I realized my role, I don't have to be a firefighter. I could apply my attributes and my skills. I could actually be a psychologist, a therapist in the fire department to help them manage their emotions and whatnot. So he said he got back into the fire department and he's spending a lot of time there now helping people, and he loves it. So this is just, again, seeing that once you know you're the game you're playing, when things don't go well, it's not like you need to throw away the game. You might just be choosing the wrong role, or you're learning the wrong skills, or you don't have the right allies. And I think there's already been quite a few people who told me, just checking out the book, their life trajectory has already. I don't know how well it goes. Too soon to tell, but at least right now they're very happy about it. Yeah, Mark too. Mark after checking it out, he's like, I want to be really involved, which is why he's here today, and he wants to be a big YouTuber too now.
I'm definitely super excited about this. Like, I would like to, if any of you would like to maybe put a case in your life, like, oh, I'm actually interested in getting some help. Like, I would like to, and then you have a very specific goal in your life and you have been struggling, we could do a quick review of the 6 steps in your life and see what thing you could do to improve, right? So if any of you is interested, like, just let us know, and we can bring you on the stage here. I can send you like a link, and then you can join us here, and we can do a case study. For now, while one of you is interested, if you don't have to if there's too much pressure or anything. But I want to share a little bit of my life that for me it was amazing. I had this vision of creating a video game that would teach you how to draw, right? Like a pro. And what I didn't do at the time, I didn't know at the time, was that the reason why I was so excited is because that thing will help people who don't have the attributes of drawing good accelerate it and learn. They would first develop visual intelligence, that's an attribute, and then they could pick up all the drawing skills very fast. And I was very excited. So this project required something that I didn't have, that was out of my skill. No, sorry, it was the skills. I didn't have the skills of a program developer. I didn't know coding. I know HTML and CSS, but I didn't know like very basic JavaScript, and I didn't know advanced stuff. I cannot program a whole new video game, right? So I hired a programmer, one of my friends. Like, he's really cool, by the way. But it turned out like he got excited with this project, and he was not the person who should be in here. I got the wrong ally, and I invested so much money. I spent in total $85,000, and I launched a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter made, I believe, like $15,000, and that was like, so in total I ended up investing like $70,000 extra just to push this project forward, and I was not able to get it off the ground. Like, we were so slow after 2.5 years. And then after I got to this part, or like learning about the 6 steps, etc., I was like, oh, what if I have the wrong ally? What if he's not the one who can do this? And then I started asking other people, other developers, like, how much time does it take to launch a program, a software? Like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years. Like, if you have a team, maybe a couple of months, but alone, like, yeah, maybe 1 or 2, like something basic. And then I explain what I wanted. Like, yeah, that basic part, I of course have a huge dream, but at least I wanted the basics. yeah, 1 or 2 years. And I'm like, we have been 2.5 years and we have around 5% of the app. Like that's nothing. Damn. So I pulled the plug. I had the wrong ally. I had the wrong skills because I didn't like, even if he wasn't good at it, if I was a programmer, I could jump in and take over, right? But I was not a programmer. And I believe in general, the last thing is at some point I got turned off by that mission of helping others learn how to draw, right? That was like, but instead, like I got a new turn on, which is this, like learning how to help people gamifying their life. So this is way like super super exciting. And I can tell you the reason why I felt is now it's, I mean, right now it's crystal clear. But in the past, a lot of people struggle and they have no, Leonardo da Vinci didn't know, like, how come I don't, like, for those of you who don't know, Leonardo da Vinci, who here is a procrastinator? Just quick question here to the group. I know I sometimes struggle with procrastination. I know I should be working, then I caught myself spending too much time on
Hey,
Netflix.
they are here on a Saturday, so maybe
Yeah,
these people are pretty good.
guilty, says Joker. Me. Yes, yes. So, well, Leonardo da Vinci, who is a genius and made history, he was the ultimate procrastinator. But guess what? Once he got with the with the right allies, the procrastination didn't matter as much. It still affected him, right? But just having the right allies, the right skills, pursuing the right quests, choosing the right role, having the right attributes for what you have to do, and pursuing the right game, which what makes it right is something that truly turns you on, truly motivates you. That
You
is
know,
when you have the right game.
one case in point is that, I also write this in the book, that I actually lack discipline. That's one of my weakness attributes. And a lot of people, they hear that, they're surprised, like, hey, Yukai started, his first business when he was like 17 years old, and now he's running three. He wrote, he's published his second book, and he has 3 kids now, right? Most people don't see me as like not disciplined, but honestly, like, when I touch a game, when I touch anything that's entertainment, I just get sucked into it. Like literally, like I remember, like this is like 5 years ago. There's like one moment that is just a nice example where, I'm running my companies. I'm too busy. I lack sleep, and then suddenly, some online friends say, "Hey, Yukai, why don't you play Borderlands 2 with us? It's a lot of fun." I'm like, okay. So then I download play it, and when they're not playing, I'm playing too. At the end of the week, you could see how many hours you played, and I played 95 hours that week. Okay.
What?
Yeah. And I had multiple full-time jobs, right? And I had 2 twin daughters already at the time. They were like 1.5 years old. Okay.
That is insane.
Yeah. So when I touch something, I just get sucked into it, and I just so I don't have discipline. I actually remember. I think we even have that in some of my marketing, Mark, that we did together. Like when I was in college, I had a girlfriend who was 1 year younger, so at the time she was a senior in high school. She looked at my diary when I was in high school, and then she looked at it, and it literally every page, and it's not a real diary. It's just like what I did today, and it says like, played too much video games, didn't finish my homework. Played too much video games, didn't finish my homework. And then she looked at me, she laughed, and she's like, "What a loser." She just laughed at my face, and it's still, when I think about it, it still hurts, right? And that was me, literally. But see, the thing about 10K HP, I'll share my screen too, because like I said, I have all these little mini framers. Does this have to share the whole screen, or no, just the window? Okay, cool. New software. All right. So we talked about Leonardo da Vinci. He used the right allies to solve his problem. I used another thing.
I need to. There it is. Added to the
Can you
state.
see it? Yeah. I use my skills because I had a skill, which was gamification design. So when I could gamify my life, my environment, that it's fun, it's basically like a game, then I did not need discipline, right? You don't need discipline to play your favorite game. You need discipline to stop playing your favorite game. And then once once something has motivation, then you don't need motivation to do a habit, because once it becomes a habit, you need motivation to stop doing a habit, right? And so I use one of my skills. I chose a role and I developed skills and I counteracted my weakness, right? So basically, when you have a weakness in your attributes, there are basically a few things you need to do. You need to put yourself in environments that this attribute does not punish you, right? If you don't know how to swim, let's say that's an attribute, that's a skill technically, but let's say you just suck at swimming as an attribute, then if you can guarantee that all the places you're playing your game is not in water, you're always on land and you can dominate on land, then you're fine, right? Stay away from those environments. Or two, you find allies who can make up for your attributes. Everything you're weak on, they're strong on, and you want to make sure they're loyal, good allies, right? Like Mark has a, he thought they made up for his weakness, but they also didn't have that much strength. So that's number two. Number three is you use your strengths, either your skills or your strength attributes, to bypass or hard correct that. Another example I talk about in my book is I have a high empathy attribute, and that usually it's a good thing. It allows me to come up with emotionally based frameworks and models and be a good coach. But what it didn't do very well for me is it made me less blunt and straightforward. Like I didn't want to upset people. So as a leader, when they're not doing a good job, I just couldn't, or I didn't give them direct feedback. I'd be like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. You did maybe a small thing here. And in my lifetime, I realized there were quite a few times where they were just not doing well, not doing, and I just tell them in my nice way to say, hey, you should do better. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, this has to stop. So I let them go. And they're always like, I remember this, I was surprised how surprised they were. They were so shocked and surprised. And I'm like, wow, I thought I kept telling you this. So then I had to be more blunt. I'm like, hey, if you don't solve this, we cannot work together anymore, right? I have to be very, very blunt on that, like direct on that. But so I realized this is my, a lot of attributes in one environment's a strength and one environment's a weakness. But what I end up doing to work on this is I said, all right, I realized that, hey, when the low performers, they're not taken accountable, they don't have accountability, it actually demoralizes the high performers, the people working hard and performing well, right? And I see that again and again. So I'm like, hey, it makes no sense that even if I want to be empathetic and helping people and make them feel good, it makes zero sense that I'm demoralizing the good performers just to protect the feelings of the weak performers, right? And so I'm like, okay, now I should be more blunt, right? And then I also realized winning is actually the highest morale booster. In my book, we talk about Steve Jobs and also Elon Musk. A lot of people said, hey, working with them was the hardest time of their life. There's almost draconian. There's no work-life balance. They get yelled a lot. But they said, but it was the most meaningful time of my life. We made products that no one could beat. We changed the world. It was amazing, right? When you win, that's a big morale booster. So then I'm like, okay, I need to hold them accountable, push them hard. And because if we win, then everyone's happy, right? If you lose, it doesn't matter how nice the manager is, right?
Yeah,
if you're constantly losing,
oh my
it feels
God.
bad. So
that was what I was going to mention.
Yeah, but this is very important because I couldn't just change who I am. I couldn't just be like, all right, I'm going to be a mean person and just start being blunt and saying you guys suck. I had to use my empathy strengths to say, all right, to protect people's feelings, I need to be blunt, right? So I use the strength to make up for a weakness. That's how you want to think about using this. It's not just say, oh, be a better person. Just be blunt. Just be good at networking. Just be brave and talk to people. It doesn't work like that because we all are born differently. But it's about how to use what we have to put ourselves in places where our strengths shine, overcome our weaknesses, and we meet the right people, etc. And even for Mark, once he recognized he needs better allies, he didn't just say, all right, yeah, I have a bad guy who work me. I'm going to find a good guy. Right? That's is not insightful. Right? He really doubled down. He reached out to me, right? And he's like, Yukai, I want to do more with you. I want you to help me with your book, right? I don't want any pay. I don't need credit. I just want to learn. I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. A lot of people want to try to do something, but it doesn't work out. And then he contributes so much, like, okay, I think it's only fair that I give you significant credit on the book. And then eventually it's like, okay, Mark, I think I'm okay if you're like known as a co-author. You work so much. And then Mark's like, okay, let's push it more. Let's push on this. Let's push on this. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a Kickstarter. I was thinking about just
the video.
yeah, making a video over like an afternoon and pushing it out. And Mark's like, no, let's like now that my new role is like YouTuber, I do videos, let's make this big. So he started reaching out to these a lot legendary YouTubers that most people think it's too hard to reach. Again, building allies. And for some of them he got mentorship, and some of them he paid like his own money, $1,000 an hour to coach him on helping this project. So that skills also. And so we're doing all of this stuff, and so he really pushed hard on this ally thing. Like I'm mind blown. I'm like, wow, I wish I would be doing, I should be doing that, right? So that's the thing where you look at that. But just from some mini frameworks, we talked about hero's journey. I think many of you know that, and we talked about in life. Most people, they're just kind of living their life in passive mode. We call it NPCs. But once you start your 10K HP journey,
Can you zoom a little bit more?
Like that?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Maybe I should. Oh yeah, from my experience, making it less wide is helpful too, because not everyone has. Well, this looks weird too. Not everyone has the. Oh yeah, I can just do this, right? Not everyone has the wide screens. Yeah. So let's do this a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark, if there's any questions, let me know. Yeah. So once you start going on this 10K HP journey, you see your life as a game. You're trying to align your 6 steps. We start calling you a 10K HP player. You're in venture mode. But when you have your 6 steps aligned, that's when we call you OP player. These people are usually those who are already successful in the industry, and they're doing very well. Now, there's still another. I think I'm here in this zone. To reach the highest zone, you have to hit that legendary achievement, and then basically you're included in some type of history book, like in your industry or whatnot. You're relevant even decades later, or a century later. You're still relevant. That's called OP hero. And again, we talk about OP heroes in our book too. So maybe one day, well, I'll get there. But I think it's just fun. The important thing, it's fun pursuing it. It's fun, like trying to align the 6 steps of doing it. When we talk about attributes, we talk about just how you have your strengths and your weaknesses. We're not going to go into detail again. The book, these are just visuals that the start of this, and then we have a designer that made it look a bit better.
Yeah.
So it's like your talents triangle, your weakness triangle. It's not in the book, but down the road, I think when Tenkaichi can be, one might combine that into like your attribute diamond, and that maybe you can like wear it as a necklace on your chest, like this is who you are, a necklace. So we have Walt Disney, whatnot. One of the things that I think is very important and relevant is where you play in. So we talked about, again, you have game skills and attributes. If you're doing something that you're passionate about and you have skills for, or actually that you've learned some skills where you go to school for it, but you're not actually the most talented, right? Your attributes are not there. Then you're in this. Well, if you just have skills, you're in a trade zone. You're not passionate, so you're just trade zone. You're just making a living, right? If you're doing something that is your game, but it's not your attributes, that means you can get pretty good at it, but not world class at it, because you don't have natural talents at it. So we call that the passion zone. You're pursuing it because you're passionate, not because you're amazing at it. Now, if you align your skills with the attributes, you're in the expert zone, because you're just amazing, right? You could be the best at it in the world. You have attributes and you have the skills. You're an expert, but it's not something you're passionate about. So it's not your game. So you're just an expert. And if it's something that you have, it's your game, you're passionate about it, and you are, you have talents, but you haven't learned any skills about it yet. It's in the adventure zone, which is actually the most fun, to be honest, because you're here, you have the potential to become world class. So you just have to start developing skills. And then when you're in all three, you're in the OP zone. So yeah, so we have a lot of the book has a lot of mini frameworks, how to understand your role. You have 4 layers: your aspiration, your identity, occupation, specialization. So yeah, obviously we're not going to jump into all of that today, but but the whole goal for today is just kind of kicking off this whole idea of 10K HP, why we created it. And I was hoping that if we would have some good questions, because I wanted to tackle them specifically.
Yeah. So if any of you have any questions, because zooming out, what I love about this is all of us have problems. Life is tough. You want to achieve something great, you need 10,000 hours of hard work. But with you guys' proposal, basically comes and wait. What if those 10,000 hours become a game? It's still hard, but it's so exciting. So now it's 10,000 hours of play. That's why that's the title. And if any of you are like have a dream or would like to achieve something, like, hey, I'm just curious. I want, like, how do I achieve financial freedom? I'm in debt. Or you can say, like, okay, how do I lose weight? And there's 6 steps that you can follow for that. I can tell you one of my games. I want to live up to like 120 years young. I want to, like, when I'm 80, I want to be able to run up and down the stairs without any problems. So that requires working out. I still don't have the right allies. I have a couple of them. One of them is a YouTuber, Jenny Hoyos. She's one of my coaches, and she turned out like she's interested in all of that. So we geek out, like, oh yeah, and now I have a girlfriend, and she's also super into the longevity stuff. And then it's super cool to talk that kind of stuff, right? So, any of you, okay, gamifying sounds amazing. Is that the new mission? So, okay, like, this is from One True Calling. Yeah, I should probably be clicking. Gamifying education sounds amazing. Is that the new mission? That is the game, the overarching part. Like, that is my calling. Mark Twain said, there's two most important days in your life. One, when you're born. Two, when you know why. And I think that happened a couple of years ago when I decided, yeah, I want to make education fun. Now, with you, Kai, I'm learning how to make education, gamifying it, right? So yeah, that's a new mission that started. What I think when I came up with your book, Yukai, like,
Hmm.
once I was kind of like, yeah, and then I heard about this thing, gamification. I went to Amazon and it popped a couple of books, and I took yours, right? So that was when, like, oh my god, I gotta make this is a way to, like, if education can feel like a game, it would be so much fun. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think the gameful mentality is very, very important. Like it,
ooh, this is a
Mark was talking about, you know, in life we face a lot of failures and difficulties, right? But if you think about a game, if a game was just smooth and nice, you just keep going forward, 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 and say, yeah, you beat the game, good job. That's a boring game, right? No one wants to play that. A game has to purposely put in obstacles. Here's enemies that try to kill you. Here's a hole that you can fall into and you'll die, right? All these obstacles are what make the game enjoyable and fun. And we, you know, one example I've shared quite a few times is like, even if the game of golf, right? It's not just getting to the goal. If it's just about getting the goal, then you just pick up the ball, walk there, and put it in the hole, right? And you're done, right? But they
but
say no,
that's
no,
boring.
yeah, you gotta stand very far away. You gotta hit it with a weird stick, and you gotta put in little sand puddles and like ponds to make it more frustrating, even, right? And so in games, we realize that every obstacle is an opportunity to score higher, to learn, to grow, to enhance your skills, all that stuff. And gamers expect that, right? And but then suddenly you look at your own life, and when a lot of people, when they face an obstacle, like, oh, why does my life suck, you know, oh, I have bad luck, blah blah blah. And that's not the attitude a gamer would take. So when you tackle life with a gamer attitude, and you have the right methodology of a gamer playing an RPG game, then I think, you know, you would become way more successful than otherwise. You know, we're not here promising, oh yeah, you will become like a Walt Disney, right, and anything like that. But I believe if you take the right actions, you do the right 6 steps, and you will be way more successful than
Yep.
otherwise than not doing it, right?
Like, honestly, I can almost guarantee you 10x what you wanted. Like, it's so insane, it's so exponential. We have a really interesting question by Marlondo. The Marlondo, do you have something that helps someone identify their skills if they are unsure of their skills and attributes?
Yeah, so the book obviously gives a lot of step by steps. Say, hey, here are ways to figure out your attributes, it's very hard because it's very, nascent. Like most people, if they are talented at something, they think everyone is good at it, so they don't even notice they're talented at it. But yeah, there's steps to figure out your attributes. And we talk about skills are actually easier because skills are things you invest time into. You grow them, and so it's like, okay, well, I spent some time, and then you can compare your skills to others. But we also give some ideas about, all right, what are the skills you should be learning, what are the skills you're already strong at, and how to develop that. Now, I think, and I've seen many people already, like they have some good self-awareness. That itself is an attribute, right? They read the book, they think a lot, like, okay, I figured out a lot of things. I understand these are my talents now, these are my weakness, and these are the skills. I think there are some people who would need a worksheet or workbook. That's why we're also working on that right now. And hopefully, February, when we launch the book, it'll, also be out. So the worksheet will help. Some people will use the worksheet and they'll figure things out. But I think there's going to be groups of people who feel like, hey, I understand the concept and I figure some things about myself, but I'm not confident I'm correct, or I feel like I'm only like touching 10, 20% of it. Then that's why part of our vision was to create the 10K HP, 10,000 Hours of Play Academy, where
Yes.
it's like there's one-on-one coaches and someone who can guide you, talk to you. So, tell me, what did you do that you made you feel proud of, and blah, blah. Like a lot of it, I've personally experienced that over the past 10, 20 years, where I just talk to people and they just tell me some random life story. They don't think that's important. Like, wait, hold on. So you did this when other people couldn't do it. They're like, oh yeah, kind of. It's like, well, what do you think it is that made you do it? Like, because you said yourself, you're not smarter than them. They all had higher IQ, to have better grades. How did you just like, oh, well, I guess maybe I'm more optimistic. Like I always try. Sometimes they don't try if they think they can't do it, but I always try. That's why I was able to accomplish. Like, okay, yeah, we got an extra attribute, right? And then we talked about, right, what is the best way to use that. So for instance, if you have adaptability as an attribute, you're strong in this. As sad as if you stay in the same comfortable environment, your attribute is wasted, right? Your attribute only shines when you get thrown in different environments and you have to keep adapting, right? And the people who are supposed to be better, stronger, faster, they just start losing, and you're like, no, I can adapt. So you have to keep moving to make this mix. Now, maybe your life is more difficult, harder, but at least now it's a decision. It's a game strategy. Do I want to move a lot so that my attributes can shine and I can develop the right skills? So yeah, we definitely have that. But I think at one point, some people would want this one-on-one coaching to help them grow.
Yeah, like for example, I remember I had a couple of attributes that I showed you. Like, look, I because I was helping with the book. Like, I think these are my attributes, and then you started asking me questions like, wait, but do you like when you do this? Like, when was a time? Like some questions that made me dig deeper, and then okay, maybe those are not strengths. And after talking and talking and talking, there was one that I never had even there in the attribute list. But my coach, in this case, you Kai, directly, you told me, Mark, I think you have this thing that you go so heavy into learning something that you don't know. And then okay, so we called it relentless learning. And then yeah, I have that very, very high. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I learned magic. I learned to play the piano. I learned guitar. This is one of the things. I saw a comment. Let me see if I can find it. Like, someone said that they were onboarding. Okay, onboarding the Julia Tonel. Onboarding seems the most challenging phase when trying to find the right allies. And then you say, especially when we are solo players by nature. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I need space to just like sometimes just be alone. But I had to learn to socialize because I had a huge weakness on my allies. I went to Vid Summit, which is a horror story for introverts. Like, it's a lot of strangers, and it's like I just went and played this game. Like, I'm gonna talk with like I have 10 seconds to start talking with someone, or just be part of a conversation. And if I'm all alone, I have 10 seconds to go and just walk into some stranger randomly and start talking, right? And that helps so much. So yeah, Julia is just learning to socialize. The 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 attribute probably that could help you is empathy. Like if you are empathetic, that helps a lot in there. And
Yeah,
then
and there's a follow up, which is some people asking, yeah, like it's not because you're introvert, it's because you're a low level, right?
yeah,
How do you make allies when
I,
you're
I
at low level?
actually
Like what do you have to offer people,
yeah,
right? And I could go back and sharing my screen again,
yes.
because again we have we have little models, a lot of things. So we talk about these are some power attributes, and I specifically talked about for networking,
They-
and I do talk about, hey, in order to network, the first step is to be a person worth networking with, right? But it's not about how high level you're, how successful in life. It's about what you offered into the relationship. And talk about it. We probably won't go into detail on the questions, but it's like first people respect you because of integrity, and they treat you, then you're sincere, you're optimism. So
could you
most
zoom
people,
could you zoom
oh,
just a
okay,
little bit?
yeah,
Just a tiny,
most
there you go.
most people are stressed with their life, and there's a lot of negativity. So if you show up, you interact with them, and you're positive, you have strong, positive energy, you're lifting them up, they usually want you to be around more. I did that when I was a college student. By the way, I started something called FD Network, but that's another story that I wrote in my book. But it's funny. I went to a lot of very established professionals, and I did I appeared optimistic, confident. I took it on initiative. I followed up a lot, and I meet them, and I would write an email to them and say, hey, I'd love to learn from you. I want. How about I treat you to go eat at Subway, right? And I said, it's not the highest end, but I really enjoy it, and blah blah blah. And right, and they usually, I imagine they usually get a chuckle, or they respond to chuckle, and they usually say, oh, hey, this guy's kind of funny. He's like, yeah, actually, let's not go to eat at Subway. I'll treat you to this nicer restaurant, right? And so it's just they feel that it's positive. But one thing is just offering to help them. There's a lot of people who reach out to me and they say, hey, Yukai, I really like your work. Actually, it's a funny story. My founding partner and now CEO of the Octalis Group, Joris Beerda, he wrote an email to me and he said, hey, Yukai, I'm willing to be, to work for you full time without any pay for a whole year just to learn from you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Like, I don't know who you are, but I can't say no to that, right? So I'm like, sure, let's do it. And of course, not that many people can offer that, right? But he could, and he did other things that were pretty good. And then at the beginning, like this guy used to be, you'll see the book. He used to, he was a diplomat for the Netherlands, and he was like 15 years older than me, and he used to go to mountains with rebels pointing guns at him, and he convinced them to put down their guns and join the military. Okay, and so he did a lot of things, but I didn't know. I didn't care. I'm like, sure, whatever. So if you want to learn from me, then show up at my meetings and just learn. So he was in Bali at the time, semi-retired. Like he just didn't like his work anymore, and he showed up at 3 a.m. for him in his time, and he just showed up to meetings. So he became my intern, my grunt worker. And then after a year, we're like, hey, this is a good work relationship. So why not start that class group together? So I'm like, okay. So then he's the CEO and he runs the company. He's doing very well. But there are plenty of other people who reach out. There are people who reach out, just say, Yukai, I need this from you. Can I talk to you? Because I want you to teach me, blah, blah, blah. And I ignore a lot of those. And sometimes some of them I want to help them, but I can't. And then there's another guy that I'm working with. This guy sends me a message on Twitter saying, hey, I'm a 17-year-old kid from India. I have an abusive father. I don't know what to do. And I've learned to do some programming. I'm happy to help you. And maybe you can pay me some money so because I ran away from home, blah, 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 right? And it's like, oh, is this a scam? Like, who's this guy? I don't know. And then a day later, he says, oh, actually, on your website, I made 3 different versions of a front end. What do you think? And I think they all suck, but like, wow, this guy is very proactive and hardworking. And I replied like whatever, and he's like, oh, I made 3 more versions. What do you think about this one? And I'm like, okay, this person's very, is contributing, right? Is working on, is contributing. Doesn't see like a random scammer is not gonna create custom code for like a new front end for my website. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then now I still pay him every month, and he's growing, he's learning, He says I'm a father figure now. So again, being low level is fine as long as you have something to offer, right? And there's a lot of things people can offer, even positivity, like I said. And then the other thing is, there's another thing here we talk about team player types, and this goes back to 3 attributes: execution, vision, and empathy. Not going to go into the details, but the idea is if you have all 3, you're OP leader, and most leaders have 2 out of the 3. But I talked about even if you just have 1, there are roles to play the game. Like let's say someone just has vision, right? They dream up things, but they suck at execution, right? They can't execute anything, and they don't even have empathy. Like they piss people off when they work with them. Like but they're just like so we call them a dreamer. So it's like, hey, is a dreamer valuable, right? Can you make allies as a dreamer? Yeah, because if you are a good dreamer, you actually have vision. I said you could be a thought leader in an industry. So just spewing out thoughts, right? And people like your thoughts, like your vision, and you become successful. You can be an ethicist, right, at a company, like talk about how we should morally use technology. Or you could be an advisor for someone who is already good at execution empathy, but they don't think they have excellent vision yet, right? In fact, a lot of people are advisors or consultants, and they're bad at the other 2, but they do that, right? So even a dreamer, you have places to play. A supporter, you only have empathy. You don't even have long vision of what should be good, and you're bad at getting work done. You could be, empathy supporter. You could, I mean, not derail, saying this is not a respectful thing, but you could coach people, you could teach people, you could, help people who are in need. You can do a lot of nonprofit work. So, and lots of people are doing that just as a supporter, and they're very successful, and they find it very fulfilling. If you're just good at execution, you don't even know where you're going, and you don't even like care about how others feel. You just gotta work, get stuff done, right? You're a hustler, but a hustler with a good vision of a leader and who has empathy, like a coach, is great. The coach puts you on the right thing to do, and you get a lot of stuff on, and you become successful. So, like you even if you are very limited, there's still something you offer. That's what my point is. And through what you offer, as long as you're offering value, you can build allies. And some allies are equal to you, right? Just like in a game, you don't always ally with people higher level. There are people equal to you that say, hey, let's grow together, let's learn together. And both of you or all of you leveling up together. So you're getting stronger and stronger together. So you have a bunch of allies, just not higher level allies. That's actually very normal. And then you have mentees. I had a mentee, someone just from high school saying, hey, I'd like to learn from you. I'm like, okay, sure. I'll give you like a few hours. I mean, not like all together. Like I'll give you like 30 minutes here, an hour there. And then I stopped talking to him for like 7 years or 10 years. And then suddenly he reaches out, hey, Yukai, I'm like 25 right now, and I started my company, and we raised $20 million. And I really want to thank you. You were there from the beginning as a mentor. I was like, wow, like I'm his ally now. That's amazing. Time goes by actually pretty quickly. 5-7 years does go by quickly. People you thought couldn't do anything, like high school students, they could actually become quite high level. So you just want to, so those are all some comments I want to make about allies.
I need to wait a little bit because.
Oh yeah, got a noise in the background. All right, so let's see. How would apply in a real life game like health game to motivate users for health lifestyle? We are planning to use social. So the question you have is mostly addressed in my first book, Actionable Gamification, because the Octalis framework is about how to design for other people to do desired behavior that will have them do healthier things, help them learn better, help them, again, 1.5 billion users have been impacted by my Octalis framework, which is why pretty well known, and work with Walgreens, work with Takeda, a lot of healthcare stuff. We have some case studies on that. 10,000 hours of play specifically for yourself, how to turn your life into a game. And it's very different because it sometimes it's easier to design and motivate other people to do desired behavior than motivate yourself. And sometimes, when you design for other people, it's a single concept. Like you want them to do this one thing, like buy your product or take their pills more. And you have to think about what is your life goal, life mission, right? There's core drive, one epic meaning calling, which is you want to tie the triggers to say, hey, this connects to you, what you care about, what you're passionate about. But ultimately, how well it fulfills it, that's up to debate. So 10,000 hours of play is you are aligning your life with the right things and with the right skills and putting yourself on a place where not only are you successful, you're enjoying every step of the way. So just saying that, unless you're saying like, how can I get myself to play a health game and be healthier? And it's funny because Mark in the book, he talks about he applied gamification to lose a lot of weight. I recently, it's kind of funny. So the mini course you'll see a fatter Yukai. Okay. We filmed this when I was in Seattle like a month and a half ago, and then after that, I lost like 8 kilograms, like about 15 pounds or something, and so I looked at that. I'm like, oh, I don't like how I looked in that mirror.
Yeah, I remember I showed you the video, and then that's Yukai with baby fat.
Yeah, yeah. So still, but yeah, so you can gamify yourself, taking healthier behavior and all that stuff. But that's but your question might be addressed already in my first book, which I highly recommend, obviously.
The action and
Then
gamification.
yeah. Let's see.
I have let me I wanted to add something in here to Vincent, like finding good allies when you have not achieved great success. Let me tell you a really quick story that is insanely inspiring. These two brothers are in the United States. They are nothing. They have nothing. They are not experts at anything. They are just like, we want to get some super cool mentor, and then let's take the, like, what do we have, what, like, pay attention to what you have, like, do your event, okay, there's a newspaper, there's important people here, let's call all of them. And they start calling, and they like, hey, do you want to be our mentor? No, like, so many rejections until one guy from one bank says, okay, yes. And then when they asked him, like, why did you say yes, like, I just found it curious that they had the gumption to call me, and then, hey, can we do like some kind of internship? And then
this was a senior executive at a bank, and they had to schedule it, I think, if I remember, like 3 to 6 months out, and they took a 3-hour train ride to get there for the lunch meeting.
So who do you, like, Vincent, do you think you could do the same? Like, any of us could do the same? Well, that guy and his brother is Elon Musk, and his brother Kimball. That's how they did their first business. And then after that, they became millionaires.
Yeah, and there's obviously this whole thing about, oh, are they born rich or not? Is this emerald field? There's all emerald mine or stuff. But just know that when they were in Canada, they worked dangerous jobs. They didn't have any place to live, and jobs that if you didn't move every 30 minutes, you would have died. And out of 30 people, 28 people left. So when they moved to Canada, they didn't have money, and they cold call people. And one accepted the call and said, "I like you. I'll give you an intern." Yeah, Nova Scotia, and then I'll give you an internship. But so most people say, "Hey, Elon Musk doesn't deserve his success." Blah 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 blah. Well, like, step one, start calling people like they did, right? If you did at least this, read all the books in your library, like Elon Musk did when he was 12, and then cold call everyone in the newspaper that they thought was successful. And now it's even easier because there's the internet, right?
Yeah,
cold call these people. God. Once you've done these two things and you're like, wait, I didn't achieve any success, so Elon Musk is just lucky, then yeah, say that. But the whole point of
even tried.
The whole point of Take HP is like, look, they did quests. They did quests that made them put them on paths that took them like to a much better place. And because they kept doing something like that, they kept doing things that most people wouldn't do. They, became, top on the Earth server leaderboard. So, yeah.
Also, we are over time. I'm going to drop a link for those of you interested in reserving a spot, like to get notified to your email, etc., for the 10,000 hours of play when we do the launch. Let me send it. There it is. The 10,000 hours of play. In there, you're gonna land to this page where you get this invite. Let me present. It's already there. There it is. So right now we still, obviously this is still like a prototype. It will be designed more properly, etc. But this is so you can reserve your launch, right? And a little bit of information, just like this is what we noticed and why I got so excited about this project, because all of them were not having any success until they aligned those 6 steps. And it was so powerful, right? And yeah, like the big companies that trust Yukai, this is super big. And then some people, this is CEOs and best-selling authors. And yeah, so you can come in here, right? And then
It's the first time I see this page.
yeah, it's because we just finished it. We're gonna stream in a little bit. But which, by the way, guys, that's what I'm talking about when you do the right quest with the right allies, with the right guy. If I was doing this for a project that I don't care, it was so stressful. I haven't slept, by the way, and I'm still full of energy. Like after this call, I'm gonna disconnect and just die for like 12 hours. And it's because this is so exciting and like, oh my god, and I'm gonna be talking to people who are interested in this. So it's very exciting. And when you are, I believe I have my 6 steps aligned. Maybe the skills I need to improve, level up a couple of them, that's my missing spot. But I think everything else I have it aligned. I just need to develop some more skills as a YouTuber and marketer, and I think it's gonna be a banger.
I think if the book does well, right, no problems. Like my first book sold over 100,000 copies, and it's a B2B book, right? And I had less reputation, all that stuff, and I wasn't even doing all this marketing stuff that we're doing right now, like spreading it. The second book is B2C, and I think there's just way more people can read. I just from the signs, I think it's going to be way more successful. Specifically for Mark, I think this is going to be a pivotal quest for him. Like again, he just asked to be a ghostwriter, without being paid, right? But if this book is well, he's a co-author of a very good book, and he's probably going to lead the 10K Academy, and that's pivotal. That will put him on a totally different. Again, if we weren't here early, Mark Diaz is already a successful entrepreneur, and he has a TEDx talk that I linked earlier, where it's like 300,000 viewers. He's very successful in his own right, but I think this one will put him at a totally different place with his quest, introducing a new arc. And it's like, we'll see, like in quest, we have like sagas, arcs, major quest, minor quests, and tasks. So there's that structure too. But, I think I'm excited to see where Mark will go and
Me
hone his
too.
skills and the task quest. Yeah. It's been fun. As you can see, working with Mark is really fun. He brings a lot of dynamic energy.
And I wanted to mention something else, because one thing that you can always do, all of you can always do to get better, like approach allies. I think allies is a big game changer for a lot of people, is level up yourself. There's something I did before I reach out to Yukai, and that was like 3 years before I decided, like, you know what? I'm gonna be reading books. I'm just gonna do. I didn't know this story about Mr. Elon Musk, like reading all the books in the library, but I heard from Tony Robbins that he went to a place where they had tapes, like audio tapes of programs and training and coaching, and he was like, "I'm gonna get all of this eventually." Like he didn't have money, and then I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna read." Not read all the books, but I'm gonna read as many books from Audible, because I don't have time to sit and read. I'm super busy. Just have an audiobook reading me something while I'm having lunch, while I'm walking to the grocery store, whenever it's that time that I could be talking with someone, because I'm an introvert. I do a lot of those things alone. I have an audiobook, and just on those dead times, I'm learning new stuff. So by the time I came to Yukai, I was like what happened was that I joined the school, like his school, and then I was like, I'm gonna show up to every single class, every single one for like at least a year, and then I'm gonna propose, see if I could do something for him. And then I saw that need, like he was like, a lot of students asking like, hey, when are you gonna write that book? I don't know, like, man, and then I was like, what do you need to on a ghostwriter? What would you need? And then he wrote some qualifications, and then I sent him a video like, I think I would qualify because of this and this. And then we just gave it a try. This is what could have happened, everybody. It could have been a waste of my time. He could have said, no, you're not the one I'm looking for, thank you, you're too energetic. For some people, sometimes I'm too much. That could have happened. And by the way, that has happened to me so many times. I have been before Yukai, I have been rejected, I believe, another 4 times. And he just said yes. So another thing to know is success is also a numbers game. You have to keep showing up, trying with someone else. Right.
Yeah, most people don't beat a game the first time they play it. If you
Yeah.
can beat a game the first time you play it, it's probably not a good game. Most people die a few times, learn a lesson, restart, die again. But every time they get a bit further, and then finally they win.
Yeah. Right. And then I'm interesting on this one. The like Cata Villegas. I don't know if like sounds Latino. Uh, Cata Villegas or Villegas. Cata Villegas. What can be common pitfalls when trying to gamify lives? How to track progress in personal growth for people who struggle with consistency. I love that.
Yeah, so I think this falls into both my first book and the second book, because when it's about how do you gamify other people's lives, again, it's that the first book and how to make sure they do all the right desired behavior. And but the second one, I'm going to go back to the framework itself, because it's always, I mean, I think I sometimes I worry like, oh, are people tired that I'm always going back to the same framework for the octalysis or this? And some people said, no, that means the framework is robust. Every question you go back to the same framework, as opposed to like everything has its own custom way to think about it. Yeah, and so when it comes to pitfalls, again, there are things where I think every minute you spend on trying to gamify your life, and
Yeah.
people have different definitions, like, oh, gamify life is just having a point system for things I'm doing, right? A measurement system or reward system. And even with the first book, Akalas, that's not the case. There's like variety of core drives and adding more social, more unpredictability, creativity. But here, I think every minute you use to gamify your life, like thinking about what is the actual game you're playing, are you actually passionate in what you're doing? It's funny. Recently, I talked to another guy who says he's very successful too, but he says he's has commercial success, well respected, and he says he's going to. I might even have published a book, but he says he's going back to get his PhD. And I asked him, okay, well, is there a mission, a game you're playing that you have to have a PhD to get it? If you don't have a PhD, you can't complete the game, or getting the PhD is your game. Like that's what you care about, and that's the end game. You don't need to do anything with it, because I know a PhD is a huge commitment, right? If you're doing this, you can't do a lot of other things. And he says, well, it's funny because I used to say I'll never get a PhD, I'll never get back to school. But then I had a friend who told me, a professor who said, hey, you should come back, but you should apply. But the school's not going to take you, because we don't take people with your profile. So you could try anyway, but you're not going to get accepted. So might as well. And he says, oh, I might as well do it. So he tried. He's like, oh, but I got in. Oh, then I should do it. And so then I started laughing. So you are taking a PhD not because it aligns with your life mission, but because you thought you couldn't get in. Your friend said, and then you got in, and your friend motivated you. It's like, yeah, now that you mentioned it, maybe I'm doing it for wrong reasons, for bad reasons. Like I was just pushed by a friend, and I thought I couldn't get in, but it doesn't align with anything that I actually want to do with my life goals. Yeah, and so spending any amount of time figuring that out is worthwhile, right? and so spending more time thinking about what is your actual game, spending more time understanding what are you good at, what you're bad at, and what do you do about it? How do you maximize what you're good at and minimize what you're bad at, and then understanding what you're doing. Like, I don't think there's a pitfall besides you go in the wrong direction. Like you're delusional. You think you're really a great debater, but you actually are the worst debater, right? And then, but still spending time on and figuring it out, talking to people, speculating, that's still going to help you, I believe, as opposed to it's going to make you go even more and more wrong, right? Especially if you find the right allies, because sometimes, this guy just doesn't know himself at all. Like the more he thinks about his first 3 steps, the worse his life will be. But then it's like, okay, if you can find good allies, then hopefully they'll at least prevent you. It's hard to find allies that will make you like amazing, but finding allies that say, wait, what you're doing just makes no sense. Like you're bad at it debating, right? You're the worst person at debating. I think there's a lot of friends like that. And then understand the right skills. So I would say there is no pitfalls in terms of risks, in terms of pushing for it, learning it, developing, finding good allies. I think even if you don't succeed, like Mark Diaz has said, he failed 3 times trying to connect to a higher level ally. but he learned from it. He built skills. He developed attributes. Right. He did these quests, and over time he has allies. So I don't like. There's nothing you really lose. You just grow and learn, and that's the beauty of a game. Even if you don't beat the game, you're growing, and even if you don't beat stage 3, like even if you're stuck on stage 3 for 50 times in a row, you're still learning and growing. Like either you're getting experience of leveling up in an RPG, or you're just learning how to play the game better. So, so that I think that is in terms of like risk. Now, if you do like if you're game fighting for other people, then there's like, oh, things you can do wrong. It's too extrinsic. It's too black hat. It's too white hat. That's more like the technical design of human behavior, which is a little bit different. How to track progress and personal growth of people who struggle with consistency. And this is what I said, like when you have the right game and the right role and the right quest, people are consistent because it's fun. Like
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
gamify my life, I don't want to
Inevitably.
spend a second leaving it. Yeah. You just want to spend all your time on it. And it's more like your family, like, hey, how come you're working so hard? You're spending all your time writing this book or teaching people or even working on your health. And it's like, okay, I need to adjust my game to say that, spending time with family is part of the game. And I need important quests to do it. I need to blah, 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 right? And then you build that into your game or else. And maybe that's a pitfall, right? You're so focused on your 10,000 hours of play game that you prioritize other things less. Maybe that could be an issue.
Actually, I would say that if you get derailed too much, first, this is a concept from Nir Eyal from Indestructible. Like when you are calling yourself, like, how do I keep consistency, etc. Like the question is, okay, are you trying to achieve something or not? A lot of people don't have like, I don't know. Like, okay, let's start with that. You're not actually getting distracted because there's nothing that you're going for, right? So first would be, do you have something that you really, really, really want? And if you see it not happening, is so frustrating, right? For me, it's frustrating to see kids saying like, "Oh, school." I'm like, that sucks because learning is so much fun. I love learning. So that would be one thing. But answering with a more strategic thing would be something that is gonna be covered. We actually have a couple of videos planned for this, and that's the quest map. Like having a set of like you have the big quest. That's something that in the book we talk about. In other places it's called the OKRs. But you said like one big quest and then some sub quests that you need to achieve, and each one has tasks. I can assure you, if you have that cleared out like an action plan, it's so difficult to not follow up. It's so exciting to keep doing it, right? And the other thing is, whenever you fail, I'm very sensitive. Like I get super duper sad when I don't achieve some of my goals, right? If you can turn all that sadness and then start reflecting, like imagine I imagine the sadness like a bubble, right? Any of you knows what I'm talking about when you get super frustrated that something didn't go the way you planned and you wasted so much time and energy? Let me know in the chat. So for me, it happened. The way I see it is, it's like this bubble of sadness, of frustration. But if I sit down, usually the best way to do it is with a mentor. Now I have you guys, and I express the problem, etc. And then, oh, it's because that person probably is not the one you should be being working with. And then what, like that, all that sadness, all this frustration blows out, and it turns into experience points. And now I'm leveling up. I imagine my bar raising, and I start leveling up because now I have knowledge. My situation hasn't changed, but guess what? I already started changing direction. I don't change destination. I don't get to the destination in one day, but you can change direction right now in your life, right? So for me, that's exciting. Anyhow, hopefully that helped. And yes, you said Latina. Muy bien, muy bien. Yo soy de Mexico. That's why. So whenever I see Latino names, I'm like, hey, you sound familiar. Awesome. We have some
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, a lot. So a lot of questions are on some technical gamification design stuff. Again, this is connected more to the first book, Actionable Gamification, Octalysis Framework. Feel free to check that out if you have. Feel free to join Octalysis Prime. I made 1,200 videos in Octalysis Prime teaching how to you what are technology apps to do it, how do you do better education or therapy, healthcare, all that stuff. That's what all my current success is at. But like I said at the beginning of this YouTube live, I think my life was impacted more because in 2003 I gamified my life as opposed to came up with the Octalysis framework in 2012. So I wanted to share that knowledge to everyone too. So feel free to do that. Now there's a question about what are I think upcoming projects or something for me, future like this one. Yeah, yeah. And so big thing right now. Right now I'm mainly working on 3 things. Besides this, so I have the Octalysis group, which is consulting design. We have Octalysis Prime, which is under the Force organization. So if you see anything Force, it's because it's under this organization. It's Octalysis Prime education platform. I have a passion Web3 museum project, which is meta blogs. You're storing memories onto the blockchain. Still working with a volunteer team. So then the coming year, the big thing is 10,000 hours of play, launching the book. Like it start with a Kickstarter, launch the book, and it's we're gonna start the 10KHP Academy. It probably will, most likely will come with an app, a platform. So there's worksheets, workbooks, but an app. There are some people in the community wanting to say, hey, can I build an app or whatnot? We'll start to figure out what that is. Right now, all our attention is finishing the book, launching it, and what you see. But 10KHP Academy, we think people will need personal coaching for this.
Yeah.
And so our goal is to start training people one-on-one and certify them. So again, when I say that, it means everyone on this call, if you're interested, if that's a path, a role you like, full-time, part-time, I'm not sure, you can be a certified 10KHP coach and help people align their 6 steps. Like if that's your alignment, I'm not saying that should be. If that's your alignment, and then make a livelihood out of it and help people find their game, their attributes, their roles, improve their skills, their allies, and their quests, right? You can do that. So obviously the early people will more likely become certified coaches, and then of course they will coach the next generation of certified coaches. So that's what I want to do. The vision is having a coach for 10KHP in every city in the world, because it's nice to be able to see someone face to face too with that. Down the road, there's a lot of things we want to do, but I don't want to distract because I don't want to let my dreams and vision one day I want to. This is a long story. One day I want to start an insurance company, but that's another story. But because I think insurance companies is in the best position to elevate citizenship well-being better than a government can.
Whoa!
But anyway, that's not going to be the next 3-5 years. So we'll see.
Alrighty, okay. So I think that'll be it. We stayed 30 minutes extra. Woo!
We're having fun. We like it.
Yeah, like I started feeling the sleep now. How
many hours ago did you wake up? Like
I woke up at like yesterday at around this time. Actually, it has been
24 hours.
Yeah, a little bit more than 24 hours. Like 9 a.m. yesterday.
Okay.
Right now it's 10:30.
All of you, this is the sleepy Mark Diaz you're meeting. So maybe one day you'll meet the normal awake Mark Diaz.
But it's only because I'm like super duper engaged with this, right? So thank you so much, guys. I hope to see a couple of you on the Discord server. For those of you who join the book, there's a promotion for a video course that we prepared for you. We're still doing some finishing touches, but you can access the first couple of lessons, and I'm very excited about that little course
with chubbier Yukai.
Yeah, chubby Yukai. All right, thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.